The volatility of September is rolling on. We have another bad day for Apple. Crypto continues to be as boring as possible. We're going to discuss all of that, the situation around Airbnb, the housing market, plenty of stuff to go over today on Money Never Sleeps. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. As we get going today, hit some buttons down below. Like, subscribe, drop a comment if you'd be so kind. Share us out on social media if you want to be even kinder. Nothing that Kevin or I say is financial advice. You're not financial advisors. We're a few guys who love the markets. Do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kev, we're seeing the sell-off in the tech sector is going even further. NVIDIA down 1.6% today. Apple down over 3% off of some bad news from China. We have Microsoft down, Tesla, Netflix, PayPal. A lot of big names in tech are continuing to take a beating, and there's really no sign of it letting up anytime soon, especially with inflation data coming out next week.
Yeah, I mean, you forgot to even throw in VinFast Auto there. That's been an absolute fucking bloodbath since we talked about it on the show. But yeah, it's everything's red. Everything's fucking red in tech today. This looks like they're trying to buy it back, throughout the day. We saw Apple was down a little bit more than where it currently was, and Nasdaq's bounced back from where it opened up today. But it's not necessarily the greatest start to September that I think a lot of bullish investors were anticipating, were hoping for. But again, this is a long month. We've only had about 4 real trading days so far in this month. Anything can happen between now and the end of the month, but there's definitely a lot of data that we can go over and see where maybe where this is all heading.
Yeah, the fear around Apple was due to a ban out of China around iPhone sales. The Chinese middle class has been a big driver of Apple valuation in recent years. I think this is once again, like, we've been around the markets and seen the overreaction to news out of China constantly, whether it was its ban on crypto, now around iPhones, NVIDIA chip sales. Like, I'm not saying you should buy anything, but if you're bullish on Apple long term, or if you even want a little swing trade, I think this Apple news is overblown. We're seeing it come back a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to be a great return here, but like, to actually, you know what? Scratch that. Just don't sell your Apple stock because of this one piece of news. If you want to sell your Apple stock for any other reason, go for it. But this one piece of news should not dissuade you from being an Apple investor long term.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point because, again, we've seen a lot of these bans happen. Again, I'm not telling you what to do at all. If I had Apple stock, which I fucking don't, you guys probably know what I'd do. I'd short the world if I could. Again, that's not financial advice. But there's so much bad news out of China. It's funny how we cherry pick. The Apple news is bad, but no one's talking about the imports and exports being down once again for the 4th month straight, right? So, yeah, this market's absolutely just idiotic. It wants to pick and choose with news headlines. I don't think that's, Apple not being available for government officials is not necessarily something that's going to destroy Apple. I think there's a lot of other factors that would be more likely to hurt Apple, again, looking at the macro. But I think this is a bit overblown. But then again, maybe people are just trying to get out of their positions. So we'll see how this one plays out. But I'm not too scared that this one piece of news will break Apple. I think there's a lot of other things that could.
Yep, absolutely. So there's been a few interesting pieces. Once again, not a whole lot of data out today. I want to go over some of the headlines. We saw on the data front, initial jobless claims continuing to come in fairly low. Labor force participation rate appears to be pretty high. It is going to be, the months ahead are going to be weird. But one thing I want to talk about, because we discuss the VIX on the show on a regular basis, was an article that dropped about some options that are being placed on the VIX. One investor in particular put $30,000 into the VIX that it will hit 180 before its February 14th expiration. Just for context, the VIX has never gone over 100, and it currently sits at 14.1 6.68. That is an absolutely, what a madman. And I fucking love it. I think that is like, if I would love to know what the payout is if it hits that level, and who's going to be trying to push it down if it begins to approach that level. Also, if you are not really, if you're new, you don't really know what the VIX is. It's a volatility index. If we approach that level, it is going to be an absolute massacre in the markets. It means that shit has gone sideways to an extent that none of us have seen in our lifetimes. Like, it is going to be worse than 08. It's going to be worse than the .com bubble. It is going to be a fucking massacre. And I'm trying not to sound excited about that, but because that's going to mean a lot of bad things for a lot of people. So I'm not excited. It will also provide a once in a lifetime opportunity to deploy capital, like Mr. House is saying, and buy at valuations that most of us wouldn't even dream of seeing again. So it wouldn't be good. It would mean probably, more stress. Like, the housing market would be collapsing, commercial real estate would be collapsing, the job market would be going to shit. Like, it would be a lot. The AI bubble will have popped. Like, a lot of stuff is going to have to happen for the VIX to approach that number. But if it does, this is going to look like they're going to make a movie about this bet. Like, it's like The Big Short 2.0.
100%. And it's think about this on the flip side, right? Say he's got a long position going into this. Why not short the top too? You know what I mean? Make all the way money on the way up and make all the money on the way down. It's like, I mean, if it fucking gets there, have that capital ready. That's what I would do. But I'm also, just as insane as this guy. I think that this is not a terrible bet. Again, 180, that's a little bit, again, unprecedented. Do I think it's possible that it can get to that level? Yeah, I think anything is possible, especially in extremely high levels of volatility. We have seen the volatility index just absolutely been beaten down for months. We're seeing it recently, right? It's barely been moving up. The reason that we were going to talk about it today wasn't because of this article, but we saw that it's having some pretty green days. It was up like 7% this morning, just to be slapped back down to about 3% or so. I think that the volatility index is definitely going to be taken off. The question is whether it goes that high. I think you and I both agreed that 60 was a pretty good level for the VIX. That was a while back, but to play into this guy's
this guy
bet,
comes out and said, "Hold my beer." I
3x
just looked it up.
that.
96.29 is the highest level the VIX has ever hit.
Fuck. This guy's a madman. But let's I'm gonna pull up the VIX real quick.
I'd love to go have a beer with this guy and just see what is going through his head as he makes this decision. For sure, it's crazy.
I mean, let's just look at this on the fucking let's look at this on the 6 month, right? Pull this back. But you can see this is the range that the VIX has been in since it's been tracked, right? I think the highest was back here. What is that? Actually, no,
back in
the height is 08. Do I have this? I don't know why the 6 months not showing it. Go back in 08 like this on the daily.
Go back to the monthly. I'm on the monthly.
On the monthly? Gotcha.
Yeah, it's showing 96.29, I believe.
Should be right here.
Yeah, like October. Yeah, it was October of 08. Great financial crisis. The financial crisis, Great Recession, all that jazz. He's expecting it to be twice as bad. I mean, I don't even know what to think. It's crazy, but I mean, listen.
He's not wrong though in some ways. You can go ahead. I'll say it after.
No, once again, I would love to know what he stands to profit from this $30,000 bet. Like, is it would he like 3 million, 30 million? Like, what is the payout here to take on such an absurd number? Like, what would that, if it's 100 to 1, that would be a $3 million payout. Like, I'm very intrigued by what this guy is doing.
Is it like 30,000 times 1,100%? I think that's what it is, right?
I guess so.
So that'd be, I don't know. I'm not going to do the math because I'm not a quant. I'm not a quant, but fucking.
Let me go let my quant out of the basement real quick. He's been locked up down there for weeks. And we'll run the numbers on that one.
Yeah, but again, the reason I say that I'm not saying that that's impossible, even though, again, I'm trying to be as pragmatic and conservative as possible, that we're going to see something, but it's not going to be the end of the world. If something like that happened, I don't know, that'd be fucking insane. But a lot of the issues that we're facing right now are still bleeding over from 2008, right? There's a lot of things that were supposed to be done that weren't done. Derivatives trading was supposed to be regulated and never was. The same players, playing the same exact game. They're telling you one thing while they're doing another. I just saw JP Morgan said that oil is not going to go up to $100 a barrel or higher than that. It's a good chance that they're fucking longing oil here. Again, I don't know if you guys know this, but next week is the 15-year anniversary of Lehman Brothers going under. Like,
Oh, we should have a special show for that one. Like, we need to. Hold on. Let me go find a Lehman Brothers shirt online that I can buy for the occasion.
Yeah, I mean, we could do fucking, a great financial crisis playbook, everything that the federal government did in that period of time. And it can be like, hey, this is not a bad idea. If we start seeing some of this, how can we react to it? Number one, obviously, we know the SEC fucking halted short trading, so short selling. So we'll be, if we see something like that, it's gonna get bad, guys. But anyways, this VIX thing, I don't necessarily think that 180 might be a little bit out of the range I would necessarily guess it to go to. I think 120 is very possible. I think that 120 is absolutely possible. But who knows if it gets this bad, and we know that China's worse than they're telling us right now. China's withholding information, and the United States is just not reporting on it. I mean, we've dropped tons of money from China's dropped U.S. debt considerably over the past few months. We heard Japan is going to start tightening up, so that means that they're probably going to sell off some of their U.S. debt as well. I don't necessarily think that we're going to be in the same place that we were a few months ago. I don't know, by the time that this contract expires. So I think that there's a possibility we get above 100. 120 would probably be my threshold. But if it goes to 180, man, I hope this guy makes a lot of fucking money. He's probably just Chicken Little in Goldman Sachs right now. But I hope this dude is
he makes you look
Jared
bullish,
Bennett.
dude. I think you should. I think you might want to take this personally. You were the most bearish person I know. Whoever this guy is, he takes the cake. So I think you need to one up him on that.
All right, so what, 210? 210, 5 fucking contracts?
I was gonna say like 198, like 10% higher. Like, you're gonna outdo him by that much. Yeah, man, wild stuff. On that note, I want to talk Airbnb. I want to talk the housing market. That plays in perfectly to that's what we call a segue, or a segue, as Tom Keene likes to call it on Bloomberg Surveillance, or as my son knows him, Grandpa Tom. But yeah, I want to talk about that for a little bit. We've seen CEO of Airbnb sell off 4 million shares. I believe this gentleman routinely sells off shares, which, I mean, he's worth like 40 something billion. Like, the guy's just got fucking bags. But it's beyond the point. Along those lines, Kevin and I have been talking about this all year, like since the beginning of the year, that a big part of the issue with the housing supply are baby boomers, and the fact that so many of them are either locked into low rates or already had their homes paid off, and they have no interest in selling their house. Understandably, I get it. Like, you don't want to go from not having to pay anything, in shelter, to, being in a retirement home or whatever, and then having an added expense, especially with how, Social Security is in the shitter. The market hasn't been, amazing last year, but it's definitely putting a bigger crunch on people's ability to buy homes, putting more stress on the housing market. And to me, Airbnb, Kevin, I'll let you take over from the technical side, but the charts have been out there for months now of the percent, the cities, and, here in Denver and out in Breckenridge are two of the cities that have the highest percentage of Airbnb rentals that are underwater right now. And that's not great. So every time I get a Redfin email with the house that I like up in the mountains, I'm just like, I'm going to bookmark this. And in 18 months, I'm going to come back and I'm going to see how much lower the price is. And at some point, I will pull the trigger. Here's what's going to happen. This natural gas trade is going to pay off in a big way. And that's going to be my down payment on my mountain home when the market collapses here in the next 12 to 18 months. So I'm putting it on the record now. Thursday, September 7th, by the end of 2026, I will own a home in the mountains as a result of this natural gas trade, combined with the housing market eating shit and Airbnb going to hell in a handbasket.
Damn, bro. Yeah, you're being very conservative with that estimate in terms of,
as the kids say, put it on wax, I believe.
I don't fucking know what kids say, man. I don't hang out with any kids. All my friends are right here. But
you and your flaunt.
Me and my quants, yeah, we don't talk about fucking wax. We talk about numbers, shit that matters. Anyways, Airbnb, look at this shit. That's a gap on the daily. You can see it's completely overbought. But the problem I have with Airbnb is just looking at this chart. And again, we think we're in a bull market, right? But we know that the housing market's in a very tight place at the same time. When I look at this on the monthly, it's a very hard chart to read. I think that it's very hard to estimate exactly what we're seeing. I think what we're seeing is a corrective pattern, something along the lines of this, and then we're anticipating another wave down. The thing is, Airbnb went on the market back in December of 2020. So it's fairly new, and I think that we have no idea how low this could potentially go, right? I think the low that we currently put in for Airbnb, which is down here around $81, I think that definitely will get a bottom there that'll test it. Whether it holds or not, that remains to be seen. And the problem I have with Airbnb is, and real estate in general, is that a lot of people, for some reason, think that let me get into Airbnb, let me get into real estate property, and then I can rent this shit out. Real estate is arguably one of the hardest investment opportunities, in my opinion. I think that we've seen a lot of issues with that. I think I just saw somewhere where it was like in the past 12 months, 60,000 real estate agents have exited the industry. Again, that's probably because of low supply, but this is just an industry that doesn't generally, when the markets are down or low inventory is around, it doesn't do well. And I think a lot of people are going to start realizing that the consumer is pretty stressed here. So people, the summer might have been taking flights, they might have been visiting, doing vacations, but as the consumer's money starts to tighten, likely these properties are going to start seeing a loss. Again, you have to pay for property taxes, utilities, keep everything running. It's going to be a pretty big loss. And I think a lot of these people that thought that they're going to make some easy money because, they have a rental property, they're going to start having to sell off some of these properties. And again, if they start selling it off, there's a good chance that housing prices in that area will also start to drop because they're starting to see, people are undercutting some of these home prices. And in turn, if no one's using Airbnb, again, the stock itself is likely to drop considerably. So I think the Airbnb might not be something that crashes right now, right away, but there's a good chance that it's likely to see, once the consumer is constrained, once the student debt starts, payments are due. I think there's going to be a lot of credit issues. Might not be able to see Airbnb doing so well, and that might cause a bit of a sell-off. Again, might not be right away. I think the housing crisis is still maybe a little bit after we start to see consumers and institutions start to drop, and that could lead to some of those cheap properties that we were talking about.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no other thoughts on that. I think that was well said. What else in the markets, have you been looking at? We have it's down on the day. We're seeing the Nasdaq down about 100 points, Dow up just a little bit. VIX is continuing to pull back some now. What do you want to look at? Crypto, dude, it's just don't get complacent is all I'm going to say. Like, it's boring as can be. Thank God football is back and I have something else to pay attention to, while crypto is just like, I'm not deploying capital right now. I'm just waiting. Like, everything looks so weak. We had the ARK ETF news yesterday, gave back that small gain right away. It's, we're going to be in the 16 to 1700 range of ETH for the rest of our lives, Kevin, and Bitcoin is going to be around 25.2 to 25.8 as well. So this is where we live now. This is our new home in the crypto market.
I hope not.
I know. It's going to go down. But yeah, it's boring right now. And I don't know when that's going to change. Hopefully soon, because the sooner we can get this shit over with, the sooner we can, the chart is still going around of how long we've been in a bear market for Bitcoin. And people are like, it's going to change soon. It's going to flip soon. It's going to flip soon. It has to, based on, and this is where like the perma bulls on Twitter are like, how can you be bearish right now? We're already in the longest bear market in Bitcoin's history. And it's like, tell me that you don't understand anything about what is going on outside of crypto. Like, that is just such a surefire sign that you are not paying attention to anything. Like, yes, charts can be important, but open your eyes, like, read a book, go check out some articles about what is actually going on. And then you can talk about the fact that when this bear market might end, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be anytime soon.
I will say this, and this pisses me off a lot. again, people try and make it seem like Bitcoin is the easiest trade in the world with the halving every fucking time, right? If it was so easy, we'd all be rich, but clearly we're not, right? We always buy into it. And then we say, later on, it's like, oh, we should have just done exactly what happened during the halving. We saw it happen back in, I don't know, 2020, fucking 2016, 2012. I really don't know the halving years. I really don't care, because if we look at where we are right now, I don't give a fuck about this halving that's coming up. I think people are thinking that they're geniuses because, oh, Bitcoin pretty much made it easy for us to make money every 4 fucking years. We just got to buy in right before it. Well, 2008 happened right before the fucking first time Bitcoin came on the market, and we haven't had anything in between it. You can say that 2020 March was an absolute recession. It lasted 17 days, came right back up and went into all-time highs right after that. But we have not seen the bottom of this market. We have not been in a true recession for Bitcoin yet, and this is the thing that people are going to get, hurt on. There's a lot of people that weren't in the markets back in 2008, myself included, but at least I fucking acknowledge that we are in a place that is just as bad, if not worse, than we were in 2008, and expecting a bull market to fucking pull out of where am I going to pull out of my ass? No, it's not going to exist, right? So I think people are very, very foolish to believe that Bitcoin is easy money in the way of investing at a certain time every single time. And I think people are foolish thinking that 2008 was a one-off and it's never going to happen again. People have gotten greedy between 2010 to 2023, and it's no different than people being greedy from 1918 all the way to 1929.
Assuming that we're never going to see something like 2008 again is assuming that people are no longer going to be greedy and stupid, and that is not a bet I'm willing to place.
Impossible.
Let's talk about for a second here. Like Bitcoin, part of why Bitcoin was created was the situation that happened in 08 and people being able to self-custody their money. I get that part. I get that argument. At the same time, and it's a great form of money, and I'm a Bitcoin holder, and I'm all for it. And I think it's going to do great things. At the same time, you're not betting on the strength of Bitcoin. You are betting on psychology and people who are holding that Bitcoin and whether or not they are going to have the balls of steel to hold that Bitcoin when everything comes crashing down around them, when they run out of savings, when student loans are coming due, when their house is going up, when their credit card balance is going up, when those interest rates on those things are not coming down. So you aren't betting on the strength of Bitcoin. You are betting that the people who hold Bitcoin are going to continue to hold it and add to their positions and not panic. And that is another bet I'm not willing to make.
And again, I couldn't say it any better than you just said. You're fading the public pretty much. That's what we're anticipating. But again, we're also fading a public that was so fucking bullish on Bitcoin 2 years ago, a year ago, still bullish into this year, right? How much of their money have they over leveraged and put into positions where when, fucking the bills start piling in, rates are extremely high. Guess what? There's no cash on hand. You have to sell something. It's got to be Bitcoin, right? It's got to be whatever assets you can get, otherwise you're going to go bankrupt, or you're going to, I don't know what happens when you don't have enough money. You go to jail. I think that's what they do, right? But seems like off with their heads. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, that's honestly what we're doing here. So I'm bullish on Bitcoin, but to think that this time is no different, and again, thinking that 2008 was a one-off, it's all connected, guys. That's all I can say on that. But I do want to pull up the major indices because we were talking about Elliott wave theory, and look at this. It's fucking playing to a T, right? I had this line up here. This is September 1st, and I said, okay, this is probably going to be like the top of the market. We're going to wait for the end of this wave 2. Kind of looks like the wave 2 ended, right? Now we're going into our wave 3 right now. So that's a pretty good sign, right? If we're bearish, I think that's a really good sign. You can see that this 50 moving average on the daily is being a little bit tough for us. So fuck that little guy. But we'll retest them. We'll break through them most likely. We can see that the daily stochastic RSI is extremely overbought. And again, we have to remember where the momentum lies on the monthly. It's extremely overbought, guys. Like, look at that. We're at the top, and there's a good chance it could stay overbought for a period of time, even if it starts to dip from here. And it can also stay oversold for a period of time if it starts to dip from here. So we have to keep that in mind. But we can see that, we found, looks like another top. It's finding a bit of deviation up here. That's usually a time or a signal for a lot of people to short the market. I'm not telling you what to do, but it looks like this trend line that we saw on the NASDAQ and the one that we're seeing here hold pretty well. This is the S&P on the monthly. Let's look at the daily. It's playing to a T. 50 moving average again. they're just holding it up based off of that. They're just hoping that it doesn't go under. And then, the Dow is the one that's really interesting, right? We're below the 50 moving average on the daily, but we have the last line of support, which is 34,347. And look where it opened this morning. 34,347 bounced up, wicked off the 50 moving average. It's range bound in between these two. And we're also looking at this entire bull flag that we've been putting in since, March. It's pretty much the banking crisis, which saved, or the one that pretty much saved everyone's ass because there was just so much money pumped into the markets through, loans that were given out at a discount window. So that the market was, saved from there. Now looks like we're going to be testing this once again. We tested it once, we tested it twice, third time here. I don't know if the fourth time is going to hold. That's just my honest opinion. Again, I have no money in on the Dow or anything like that. So I think that if we do break 34,347 on the weekly and on the monthly, a few weeks from now, it's not a good sign. You can see on the weekly too that it's going towards oversold. Doesn't mean anything because on the monthly, we are extremely overbought. So once we start closing this monthly below this purple line here on the Dow, it's a good chance that we're going to probably play out this 5-way move to the downside. Again, is this the final move to the downside? I don't know. I'd have to, assess once we get further in. But everything right now from Elliott Wave Theory is playing out pretty well. Not getting too stuck on anything. The dollar, I think, has been helping us out a lot. It's extremely strong. It's 105 again. I do think that will come to an end at one point. Let's see if it gets to 105.65. That's the level that we were talking about. But again, if something does break or the Fed realizes they need to cut rates because something broke, dollar is probably going to take a bit of a tumble. So for right now, the dollar is definitely the reason why we're seeing a bit of this pain here. I also think that the markets are
continuing to
holding
see strength against the euro. Also, one thing
Yeah.
I've been watching is that euro
Absolutely.
dollar pairing is moving back in the direction of the euro. We saw it. It was November of last year. It was right around parity, but it peaked for this time through back in July, and it's been a pretty consistent move down since then, with more strength here and more problems, and the threat of stagflation in Europe. So I still think so. Yeah. So I have the euro dollar. You get the dollar euro. It doesn't matter. It's there's room. It's overbought right now, but there's absolutely the possibility. And maybe I'm thinking too small, Kev. Maybe I need to look at potentially buying like a house in the Alps or something, because they're like somewhere in Italy, in the mountains of Italy, because the dollar is going to be stronger than the euro once everything goes to hell in a handbasket over there. Like maybe I need to dream bigger.
Yeah. I mean, go somewhere where there's very little tax. At least you can enjoy the house. You can rent it out when you need to. Get citizenship maybe after a few years of having residential property there. It's not a bad play.
So I have family from Italy. Like I think I could. I looked it up. I need to find if I found what town my great grandparents were from in Italy. I'm pretty sure I can claim
citizenship. Yeah, you can. Yeah, so it's grandparents or great grandparents, and pretty much anyone who says that they're Italian, they give them a passport to, as long as you can prove that you have the documents of where they lived or where they were born. It's pretty simple. So that's actually really that's a great asset they have. Not necessarily it's the best passport, but at least you have the EU access too, right? You can live anywhere in the EU, and you don't have to pay taxes in that country because you're technically an Italian citizen. So Switzerland, here you come. Yeah, or Malta. But yeah, this is the so when I pull this up for the euro US dollar, you can see that we're going to get a death cross here too, right? That 50 is going to come and cross that 200, it seems. Maybe a bit of a bounce here, but closing below the 200 is not a good sign. That's probably going to make the dollar stronger too. So not necessarily, I won't say not necessarily doesn't look great because I don't have any whiskey for anyone today, but yeah, it doesn't look great, guys. But yeah, this is that's a dollar. And let's talk about crypto. Crypto is a pain in the ass.
Short because it's just we got the weekly close tomorrow. We'll see what happens, but it's just so boring.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm very cautious right here is because we should have broken down already. But again, I think that a lot of institutional players are holding this up because they want to get out at a better level. Question is, do they pump it up enough where they can get out? I think yesterday was a good try at that. They couldn't do it, but if they couldn't do it yesterday with that, it's a good chance that they're probably going to mint some stable coins. So I tweeted out yesterday, watch out for stable coins because that's a good chance they could push this market up to get out at a better entry. I think once they do get out of the entry that they're happy with, because I think a lot of people are pretty much accepting that they're in the red, they're going to lose money, but they have to save as much capital as possible. That goes for banks, that goes for exchanges, and a lot of people are investing in crypto right now or in stock market. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get a wick up to this 27K from Bitcoin. 200, it'd be a lower high as well. And again, that would still be closing below the 200 EMA. I honestly think if we continue trading sideways here, again, another day is going to pass. We're going to get this 50 moving average on the daily below this green line here. I mean, this is just a level of support, or it would be resistance now. So, getting that below there, it's just going to be more resistance. This 50 is going to be harder to break. It's a good chance that we're going to get this death cross. I don't know, maybe sometime next week, early next week. I wouldn't be surprised as long as we close below the 200 consistently, until then. But yeah, I think that we need to be careful though, because this could be seen as, a parallel channel this way, and which could be a little pop up there. And then, it could be a scam wick. So I'm not necessarily getting super bearish on Bitcoin here just because I don't want to see something stupid like that. These markets are absolutely irrational. I mean, shit, look what happened over here on the 29th, and look what happened yesterday. News breaks out, market shoots up, sells right off instantly. That's where we are in this market. People are trying to get out of positions. I'm still seeing tons of money. I saw like $143 million worth of Bitcoin be sent to Gemini, I think last night. So people are definitely waiting for the opportunity to get out of this unless they're swapping right now. Yeah, again, they're not trying to sell it off here. They're trying to hold it up, and there's a big difference between that. So I think that once they get out of their positions, Bitcoin's likely to just be a missile all the way down. It's going to be very hard to find any strong support. I think there's going to be less buyers and a lot more sellers coming in the future. Total market cap still below that green level. We're above it for a period of time today, but again, the dollar is fairly strong, so it is hurting. How much strength these things have. Nothing too crazy here. We already got the death cross. I mean, we could look at where else are we? Total three on the daily. Death cross already happened. Death cross already happened here for total 2. So if we look at the weeklies for those, you can see that again, everything depends on where we're closing this week. So nothing too crazy with Bitcoin. Again, I think that there is a possibility for a bit of a scam pump. I'm not necessarily going to buy into it that, the bull market's back. I know plenty of other influencers will, but just seems like right now everyone's trying to get out. That's why it's very boring, very quiet. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of green going into next week. Next week, at some point we get some bad news where the markets absolutely just decide to start tanking. Hopefully, and I'm not saying for them, hopefully good, but I think that a lot of people will be getting out of their positions depending on how tomorrow's weekly close looks for TradFi, and then how Sunday's weekly close looks for Bitcoin.
All right. That is how we're going to wrap it up today. We'll be back tomorrow to close out the week. Appreciate everybody for watching. If you have not yet, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share us out on social media, drop some comments. Is there anything you want us to talk about in particular? We are happy to do so. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. I hope everyone has an awesome rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.